Hey everybody, all my wonderful friends. October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. Well, so many other awarenesses, and so, but this is on my mind. This is, as you've seen more posts, but I've had over the years, so I am a, let's see, 13, 15 year survivor of infant and pregnancy loss. And over the years, I have had countless people ask me, what can I do? What is important? And as you hop on, say hi. I would love to see you and say hi to you. Um, so I've got a few things that I just want to share with you. Um, when you mourn with those that mourn, I have a few tips. And I'm going to do this in a 4-part series. And any of you who have experienced this yourself, I would love for you to join. And this isn't just pregnancy and infant loss that I am addressing. It is also just general grief and mourning. And I know that everyone's situation is different. It's very personal. And that's the number one thing I have to tell you is that loss is loss. And it's not to be compared. So because my loss happened at a certain time in a pregnancy does not negate the fact that somebody else had an earlier loss, or it doesn't make mine any less because somebody else had a loss later in life. Grief hurts, and it doesn't even have to be death. It can be the loss of anything, situation. So, but this might primarily focus, this is going to primarily focus on death because that is my experience. So there's so many of you here. Welcome. So happy you're here. So the first thing you need to know is that a mom, her greatest fear when she has lost a child is that nobody's going to remember that child. That is the greatest fear. And so much of that fear also contributes to the fact that we hang on to our pain. Because I remember being so worried that if I quit hurting, I wouldn't remember my child anymore. That if I quit crying every day, or if I didn't cry every time I heard her name or thought about my child or my loss, that that would be because I'm forgetting. Now I can tell you wisdom over years that that's not true. I remember my daughter every single day of my life. I think of her all the time. It doesn't cripple me as much as it used to. I mean, there are times, yes, it does, but typically no. But that is somebody's greatest fear. And so grief is really hard for that reason. So the first thing in grief is to remember. So remember. Remember that person. Acknowledge that that loss was real for that person. In a recent forum, in a Facebook group of grieving mothers of infants and newborns and miscarriages, a parent shared that she had recently given birth to a stillborn. And a family member, a very close family member, in fact, I think it was her mother or her mother-in-law, wouldn't even acknowledge the child had ever existed or that it was a child because it was not a live birth. And that is so toxic. So toxic. That was a human being growing inside of this mom, and somebody else was like, nope, not even, won't even acknowledge. And so making her go say, get over your pain, it's hurting the rest of us. Okay, those are things you don't say to people, is to get over it. Never say that to somebody. Just saying. So first of all, so in remembering, acknowledge the pain. Okay. And something else to be aware of that can be really hard, and I've seen this happen even with those who have lost older children. When somebody asks you, well, how many children do you have? It is so hard to know what to answer. So for years, we just had Jackson after Clarissa was born and passed away. And so people would say, oh, how many children do you have? And I want to be like, 2, but you only see 1. And so I'm sitting here going back and forth. Well, do I tell them this whole huge saga of my pregnancy and her experience? And then there are other times that I just say two because I'm never going to see people again. It doesn't matter. Other times I say one. I now have 3 children, and now most of you know I acknowledge my miscarriage that happened 15 years ago, and I also have my daughter Clarissa who passed away. So in my mind, I have 5 children. But anybody who sees me walking around is only going to see 3 living children. And so it's so hard as a mom, I'm like, I have 3. And so I've just gotten to where depends on the situation and what I say. So that is another thing with remembering. So just remember that that is hard. And for those who might be going through that, that's okay. It's okay to feel guilt. It's okay not to feel guilt. And those conflicting feelings, you will just have to sort it out for yourself. Sometimes I'll say, oh, I have 5, 2 angels, 3 here. And that's short, quick. And then if other people say, oh, I'm so sorry what happened, say, I'm just not really at a place to share that right now, but thank you for being concerned. So that is something to remember. Something else to remember is I want to give you some ideas of ways you can show that you do acknowledge and remember their child. And these are things that have been done for me over the years. And so first of all, I need to make a disclaimer. I don't expect people to remember my child's birthday or, right, my living child. Like I don't expect random people to show up with balloons and a present for my child. Like he was having a birthday. So Cole's birthday was just this last month. I didn't expect some random person to say, oh, happy birthday, Cole. I don't expect that. And same with Clarissa's birthday. I don't expect random people to show up and do things, but some things that are nice is if it is important to you that you like to remember people, then just put a little reminder in your phone, that calendar, and say so-and-so's birthday. And some of the nicest things that have ever been done for me are a quick text, just saying, hey, I'm thinking of you today, or thinking of your daughter and you today. That is huge. Just a quick text. And it could even be, not even have to be on her birthday. It could be around, or it could be that you saw my post on Facebook and then you just said, hey, saw your post, just want you to know I love you. Huge. Just so you know, huge for me to go, oh my gosh, somebody acknowledged that. Another way is I get flowers. Right after somebody's loss, some things that you can do include flowers. Now, flowers are hard right after a loss just because flowers die. And I remember we had so many flowers. I wish I had a picture to show you. But in our home, we lived in this small 2-bedroom apartment, and all across our TV, what's that word? Furniture, right? Our TV stand, and across our bookshelves, just flowers. We probably had 20 bouquets of flowers, and they were beautiful and they were fragrant and they were wonderful until her graveside. And then I walked in and I was intoxicated and it just threw me off. So flowers are wonderful, but just keep that in mind that flowers die. So right away, sometimes money is great if you want to acknowledge that. Another great idea for a flower is I've received potted plants like perennials, tulips, roses, that kind of thing. Those are wonderful because I can plant that in the name of my child and they'll grow back every year. Little gifts, jewelry, scriptures, a note, just a card. I have a scrapbook full of cards that people sent or little notes after she passed away because every word meant so much to me. Other things that you could do, my friend took me out to lunch this year on my daughter's birthday and just let me talk and share some of the feelings that I had been going through that week. That's all I needed. I had people show up with a plate of cookies throughout the years, flowers, jewelry, CDs. I have little statuettes that people have given me, scriptures. But honestly, just the fact that you just say, hey, thinking of you, love you, that is enough. So if you have anything else that you've ever seen done for somebody, either their birth or their passing, the biggest thing is just let them talk. When we talk about remembering somebody who's passed on, let them share. if they're comfortable and if you're comfortable, but don't make it awkward. Be like, oh, okay. Another thing, another thing, we hate the pity look. So if I feel like I have to comfort you in my grief, that's a problem. Okay, so if I'm sitting here sad and I'm going, oh, oh, I'm just hurting, and then you sit there and go, oh, I just don't know if I can handle this, then I feel like I have to comfort you. That's not mourning with those who mourn. Like, it's okay to mourn with me and say, oh, that's hard. I'm so sorry. And we're going to talk about next time things not to say and things to say, but just remembering them and being there for them. Honestly, I think the number one thing that made a huge difference in my grief and I want to say recovery, but that's a terrible word, is that I had a best friend who came down to my apartment almost every day and just let me talk. And she probably heard the same stories and experiences 50,000 times, but she was my therapist. And she just let me cry and just say, I know, Lamira, I love you, Lamira. Or she would ask questions, or, if you're in that place, you can ask questions. And it's always important to ask for permission to say, hey, can I ask about this? And they'll tell you, say, I don't really feel like talking about it. Don't be offended. It's not you. It's the place they're in. It might also be your relationship with them at the time, and that can change, and that's okay. But anyway, so step one in mourning with those who mourn, in being real, is our remember. Just remember them, acknowledge that child, that death, that person. Something else I want to say that might be touchy is, especially when we wonder the way somebody passes away, right? Have you read those obituaries where like, how did they die? Is it suicide? Was it drug overdose? Was it a car accident? Do you know it really doesn't matter? It really doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter to you how that person died. All that should matter to you is that your friend is hurting, they're grieving a loss, and all they need is somebody to reach out and say, hey, I love you. So just remember that. It's not important how somebody dies. That's to satisfy your curiosity. That really is. Especially, and if it's suicide, like we won't go into that right now about things to say, but seriously, just put your arms around them, say you love them, and remember. So that's my tip for today. That's my part one. And the one other thing you can do is October 15th is Pregnancy Loss and Infant Awareness Day. And we do what's called the Wave of Light, where you light a candle at 7 p.m. local time. And so if you've ever experienced miscarriage, pregnancy loss, or somebody who has had, or infant loss, somebody who's had, and in honor of them, you would like to light a candle, that is an awesome way to do that too. So thank you so much. Post the things, if you've gone through this, or things that you've done for people, ways that you can remember that people have done it for you. I would love that. So thanks, you guys, and have a great one.